AOL, but it was a router. They had battery packs on a belt under their belly. And another, there was like a server donkey that was nearby that was able to manage all this. And these people, I wish you could see, I actually had a video. I don't know where the video went. I think it got lost somewhere between here and the United States. But there was this video, and it was a news story, and it was Wi-Fi-enabled donkeys. And of course, people weren't paying attention to anything in the desert, in this beautiful, unique terrain. They're tweeting, and they're surfing the web, and God knows what they're doing. They're probably trying to buy things from Amazon.com. But the point of the video, and I thought it was a great start right prior to this article, which I think is even better, is that during that instance with those people on on donkeyback, and during most instances during the day, we're not sitting behind a desktop. We're with our mobile device, connected in more ways and more places than we've ever been, and that is going to continue to increase. So what you're doing today and why you're here and why this conference exists is super relevant. So this was Tuesday's New York Times. And I get this delivered to my door, and I refuse to read it on my iPad. The title of the article is, In Mobile World, Tech Giants Struggle to Get Up to Speed. Intel made its fortune on the chips that power personal computers, and Microsoft on the software that goes inside. Google's secret sauce that it finds what you're looking for on the internet. But the ground is shifting beneath these tech titans because of a major force, the rise of mobile devices. These and other tech companies are scrambling to reinvent their business models now that the old model, a stationary customer sitting at a stationary desk, not on a donkey in Israel, no longer applies. These companies once disrupted traditional businesses from selling books and music to booking hotels. Now they are being upended by the widespread adoption of smartphones and tablets. Companies are having to retool their thinking, saying, what is it that our customers are doing through the mobile channel that is quite distinct from what we were delivering to them through our traditional web channels? And that's from a Forrester analyst that's scratching his head. He added, it's hilarious to talk about traditional web business like it's been going on for centuries, but it is last century. Truly, the desktop computer is last century, and it's very, very relevant to talk about what's going on mobile right now. So what I'm going to talk about briefly is I'm going to give you just a quick snapshot on my company. It's relevant so you understand my credibility in talking about mobile commerce, transactions on the phone. I'm going to talk about some questions you should ask yourself when trying to shape how mobile works for you as a company, as a brand, as a seller. I'm going to give you some data points, which the good doctor earlier told you some of those data points. I'm going to reiterate a couple of those data points. And then I'm going to finish with 5 key items that you should think about when building a mobile environment, regardless of your platform. So my company, this is the fancy description of what my company does. Basically, we build enterprise-level e-commerce solutions for major companies and smaller companies, and some in between. Those that are very serious about the commerce channel and wanting to sell to consumers or business to business. We've won a lot of awards. This is a schematic of what our business looks like. We're the box in the middle. We interact with all the consumer touch points at the top, whether it's mobile, social, email, from driving traffic from a retail store through our system, which is that box. And by the way, you guys can, I'm not going to bore you with this, but you guys can, I can send this presentation to everybody if anybody wants it. Through the connection levels, which is the second rectangle, to the customer touch points, to the company's legacy systems. These are our clients, and again, this is just from a credibility standpoint. So we power full commerce via multi-channel. When I say multi-channel, I'm talking about core e-commerce, where you go www.officedepot.com, and then if you do that on the phone, if you do that via social, if you look on Amazon and try to buy their products on Amazon, if you look on eBay, shopping comparison sites. So we're multimodal, multi-channel, and obviously the mobile phone is a critical one. These clients are interesting because they test us in a lot of different ways. Shopping for a small item like a movie is something we might want to do on our phones a little more readily than buying a Tempur-Pedic bed. A Tempur-Pedic bed might be the consideration process, the research process. If I'm in a store, I might be querying Google or trying to search for comparative products to that Tempur-Pedic bed, but I'm not necessarily going to buy a $5,000 bed while I'm on my mobile phone. And we'll talk about sequentially using screens and one device to the next, and how that is relevant for brands and companies using commerce, mobile particularly. These clients, everything from catalogers to B2B like 3M, we sell their dental products online. And they also sell their dental products via mobile, because dentists or other people in the dental profession are also interested in looking at these types of things on their tablets, on their mobile devices, when they have spare time in the office, not because they're tethered to a desktop. And we can talk more about the clients if you want to at another time, but all of these are most of these are multi-channel, and the critical thing is when you think about a mobile strategy for yourself, think about a mobile e-commerce environment being as potent as an enterprise-level web-based e-commerce environment. When you go to www.officedepot.com, that's very robust. Expect that robust functionality in your mobile environment and demand that from your providers of e-commerce into the mobile environment. The mobile environment should not be a rudimentary version. In fact, it's more critical that there's lots of rich functionality and consumer sort of user interfaces that work in the mobile environment, because we're less patient in the mobile environment. And it's smaller, and it needs to address more of our needs, and it needs to be more sensitive to what we're specifically looking for. I'm skipping through some of these other things, which will show some of the just categories of work that we do. The growth of mobile commerce is something that we talked about a lot here. I have some statistics here that are based on more of a commerce transactional perspective. Our consumer, actually in the latest version of this presentation, and I think I'm going to grab my laptop because I have some questions that are so relevant that I want to ask you. I put a slide in here. But the slide right before this one, which says the consumer's connected, that we all like it. One of the main reasons why we should all think about mobile very seriously today, and the slide before this, which you don't see, is that Mark Zuckerberg said you should. So if he says you should probably think about it. He is spending an unbelievable amount of resources within the Facebook organization to figure out how to do mobile better. That is the one big thorn in his side. Everybody thinks about this big presentation, web-based presentation, and the red-headed stepchild, no offense to anybody who has red hair, is the mobile version of it, and it's the afterthought. And that is really what is hurting Facebook right now. So we're connected with multiple channels. The average consumer uses 10.4 sources of information before making a purchase decision. How many of you, when you're in a store, you're in a department store, are looking not only at the physical products at your hands, but you're also perhaps searching for similar products on your mobile phones? Has everybody done that? That's pretty common. And to the extent that that experience is good for you on that mobile device, it'll influence your purchase decision, even if you don't transact right there on that mobile device. Maybe you'll buy that product you're looking for. It'll affirm or negate what you're looking at in that store. Perhaps it'll influence you to buy a different product. Perhaps you'll go home and convert. If you're at Sears.com, if you're shopping with one of Andy's environments, you'll perhaps go home and buy the same product on Sears.com when you have more time to think about it, but it's nice to know that you've got it there, and it's a confidence level where you can just leave the store and not necessarily have to transact in the store. Some other data, there's been mobile traffic, mobile site traffic has grown dramatically. We have different sources here. I looked at some of the data in the earlier presentations, which are excellent, and we have some various data. It just depends on the source, but it's grown a lot, obviously, since 2010. 1 in 7 searches performed via on a search engine, on a random search engine. I don't know, Andy might have some data from Bing, but 1 in 7 will be performed on a mobile device. 90% of searches result in an action, whether that's going to a store visit, actually buying, bookmarking, sending an email to a friend regarding the product. And more than 50% of the smartphone population has used their phone to shop while in a brick and mortar store, and that's what you guys just said. So we have a lot of third-party data from the analysts and eMarketer, but we looked at 85 clients. So we looked at 85 high-volume clients that we have, including major companies like Tempur-Pedic Beds, Office Depot, 3M, and some of the others. And roughly a quarter of their traffic is coming from mobile. So think about how valuable that is. There really isn't any channel out there that is as sizable as this channel and that has the potential impact that this channel has, the actionable impact. And if we were doing this presentation 2 years from now, I would say that that number is dramatically larger. I had a professor in business school. He always said, he had a bow tie, and he always said, hear me now, believe me later. And he was saying, what he was always saying was this merging of screens to the single screen. And the single screen, whether it's the new BlackBerry 10, whether it's the iPhone, whatever that single screen is, it's more capable now than it's ever been. And so we're sort of discarding, I use my mobile phone when I used to use my desktop. I now have an iPad that with a BlackBerry keyboard that replaces my desktop almost entirely. So what is that going to be in 2 years or a year from now? Before I give you these tips, I want to grab my laptop and ask you these questions. This was really relevant. It came from a Facebook presentation. I thought it was good to share. So this is about the size of a mobile phone. The reason why I want to ask you these questions is because it really is about why this is important to you. For these, and this is the presentation that I'll send you, and these are really important questions to ask yourself when you're thinking about what you should be doing with mobile for your business, why it's important for your organization relative to your consumers, whether you're a brand, whether you're a seller, whether you're B2B, whether you're thinking of some sort of transactional functionality. So from a category perspective, how is mobile changing your category? From a macro category perspective, is mobile affecting your category? And these are questions you should ask yourself. And you can literally spend probably 20 or 30 minutes talking about each of these questions. So think about that. From a brand standpoint, are there specific things your brand can do with mobile to differentiate? So it's not just throwing up a mobile environment. It's, okay, I'm Nike. Nike's very different than Office Depot, which is very different than 3M, which is B2B. So those mobile environments are unique, and they have unique characteristics, and those characteristics are driven by these questions. From a brand perspective, secondarily, how does mobile change your value proposition? From a consumer perspective, why and how does your target use mobile? Who are your audiences? This is what we do at Shop Visible when we think about, we create these personas. So, oh, it's up? Oh, cool. Oh, great. There it is. Okay, those are the questions. So it's actually easier to read. Can you guys see it better on this? No? Okay. What other types of media is your target consuming? It's just like this encapsulated it so well as we thought about creating, how do we create a mobile environment or a web environment or an iPad environment or whatever environment it is. These questions were so salient. It seems to encapsulate sort of the storyboarding process as we thought about how to render environments for our specific clients, and I wanted to share it with you. How can you connect with that consumer? And then from an experience standpoint, how do you take advantage of unique mobile functionality? There's lots of new technologies, lots of new features and tools. What is it that you can do from a mobile functionality standpoint? And then are there creative ways to use the technology from an experience standpoint? So I thought those were pretty interesting. I'm going to see if we missed another slide that was interesting. Oh, actually, you know what I'll do? I'm going to take you to that picture of the camel so you guys realize I wasn't kidding. This is, if you think to take a look at this, it's an interesting story, and there's a video, and this video, I don't know how to click it and make it. It actually might, there is a clip. Maybe it'll work. But they're not even paying attention. Like, this is typical kids. You know, or not just kids, us. Anytime we're bored, the second we're bored, we're playing with our mobile device. It's okay. You guys can just search for Wi-Fi donkeys. There aren't that many results. And then let me see if there's a couple other things that we might have missed. Let's see. But this was the main slide. This was my main data slide that differentiated from some of the other data slides before. It was like sort of, okay, well, it's already been audited. Zuck likes it, so we perhaps should follow suit. Okay, so a couple more data slides. Smartphones are clearly the starting place for commerce. These are results that we've seen. We get these from the analysts. 65% of people start shopping on their phone. Smartphone users start shopping on their phone before they even go to the stores or when they're contemplating a purchase. They might still go to the stores. And then in many cases, they continue on subsequent devices, secondary devices, whatever devices they have, whether back at the office or they're at home later or whatever it is. But there's lots of things. These are things, and we expect these numbers to continue to increase. Just general searching, browsing the internet. Now, searching for information and shopping online were kind of the same, because if I'm searching for information online, a lot of times I'm searching for a product that I'm interested in buying. But I thought this was a pretty big slide in terms of whether I get a consumer to buy the minute they search for my product online, if I'm Office Depot or whatever I am, to the extent that I can create a good experience and enhance that consumer's experience so much that my product has more luster or my presentation has more luster, I'm going to convert my consumers. And we have pointers at the end, top 5 pointers, which correlate with this. How do you engage that consumer? How do you make sure they stay on that smartphone device and make a transaction? This was, I used the phrase sequentially screening. So I'm moving from device to device to device. Again, I guess it's another format of the previous slide where 67% of online shoppers will use multiple devices. This is eMarketer. These are those typical eMarketer slides that anyway, if I could flip this slide upside down, it would still look interesting. I could put it on its side, it would look interesting. And the print is intentionally small so nobody can tell what it says, but it's just one of these important looking slides. But the slide on the left says that in 2016, eMarketer is saying, the graph on the left is saying that there's going to be roughly 192, 193 million smartphone users in the United States. And I apologize that I don't have this data for the Caribbean, but certainly there's a correlation. That represents 74% of mobile phone users. So let's say in 2014 or even in 2013, it's a pretty significant growth. So we're going in 2013, 55% of mobile phone users are smartphone users. That number jumps to 74% in 2016, and I think that was, there's a lot of contributing rationale to that, but Sean was saying that if you have contracts and you have phone makers giving you big incentives to get like a $30 smartphone just for a contract, you're going to buy it. And then all the way up to the fancy phones. But smartphones are so inexpensive and so accessible now. So 2016, 58% of the population in the United States is going to be, smartphones will represent 58% of the population. And that doesn't mean that everybody has one. That means people have multiple phones. And there's some other interesting data here that you guys can take a look at. I showed you that. Cell phones are a distraction device. I can see a lot of you guys on your cell phones right now doing things. And it's the minute something isn't uber stimulating, like the last slide I just showed, people are going to drop down to their phones to look at something, BlackBerry BBM, whatever it is, something's chirping on their phone. And this slide it comes at a really good time because they're a distraction device. The minute, and it's not just kids. So they say 73% of 18 to 24-year-olds, I'm 23, so I fit right in that category. And so you can, and I can attest to this, that the minute I'm bored with something, I'm on my phone. It doesn't matter if I'm 23 or 40 or whatever my actual age is, which I'm not going to, no, I just turned 40, so I'm having trouble with that because I think I just moved into, no, but the good thing is I run races, I run long races, and now that usually the races start, the youngest person in my category is 40, so now I have a chance. When I was 39, it was a disaster. But I mean, you think about what's going on. So a kid or anybody's watching TV or watching a show, something's influenced, they're thinking about something, they get bored for a second. What are they doing? They're going to their phone and they're going to do something that perhaps is relevant to whatever they just saw, whether it's the TV show that they just saw, a TV commercial, a billboard that they drove by, something on the radio, something they want to learn a little more information about. Again, they're on a donkey in Israel, who knows? But they're turning to their mobile devices in ways and with frequency that we've never seen before. So how critical is it to create a good experience with that, for that consumer, and capture that consumer? Another way of looking at it, this was another research source that we have, and I have the sources. This one, just again shows lots of different activities around shopping. It's not just buying, 26% make a purchase, but there's all of those things, all of that whole, call it that conversation. If it's the equivalent of walking in the mall with a group of friends and you're having a conversation and you're talking and things are, you're sort of collectively influencing one another on a purchase decision. If you're doing all these things, this is sort of like your virtual friends at a mall. I'm doing all these different things. I'm sending pictures to my friends. I'm taking a picture of this color shoe or that color shoe. I'm researching the product. I'm searching for a store. I'm texting. Lots of things that people are doing while in the stores. Again, we have to be better at presenting quality mobile content. I showed you the slide already, and I showed you that one. And okay, so here are the 5 tips. These are things that we have looked at when we poll our major retailers and then our important retailers, the retailers that are doing significant things online, B2B or B2C. These were the top 5 things. There were a lot of other things, but without getting too granular. Barriers to checkout. I don't know how many of you guys have had a hard time typing in a credit card number or figuring out the checkout process on a cell phone, on a smartphone transaction. It's very difficult in many cases, so there's lots of barriers to checkout, and then there's tons of defection at checkout. People will get excited, they'll see a product, but they'll get to checkout and they'll have a problem. We have a number of examples of very good UI, user experience checkout tactics, which we'd be happy to share with you. There's a lot of good examples. This particular case, no pun intended, the company's called Casemate. They sell mobile cases, all the device cases. And they do about 800 transactions a day. About 20% of them are on their mobile phones, are coming from consumers on their mobile phones. It's relevant because people are buying a product for their mobile phone, usually. If you have that kind of volume, you can't afford a 5 or 10 or 15% defection rate. That's huge money. So these guys are really being proactive about paying attention to that checkout experience. One of the other things, this was just ancillary data. In terms of buying, when we're buying sitting on a desktop, we're so conditioned to putting in our credit card information. And that's the way we pay. That's the way e-commerce has always been. Type your credit card information, put the four-digit code in, put your billing information in. It's easy to do. You're at a keyboard that's big. And based on that, we see 62% of consumers, when sitting at a desktop or a computer, will use credit cards. And then 38% will use alternative payments. When I mean alternative payments, I'm talking about PayPal checkout, Amazon checkout, Google checkout, and other alternative already logged consumer information, credit card information, basically checking out. If those of you who don't know what Amazon checkout is, it uses your Amazon.com account or your Google checkout, it already has your billing information, it already has your credit cards, and it's a one-click checkout, perhaps with a password. On the mobile side, this was the major, major windfall for our clients. Once we encouraged more mobile transaction, more e-commerce environments to use alternative payments, you have to. Even if you have a bad e-commerce environment on your mobile stores, make sure you have PayPal, Amazon, and Google Checkout, because the lion's share, almost 80% of those consumers will opt for that and not have to type in their credit cards. I thought that was really, really kind of obvious but useful, and that's from data from our clients. The inside search, so the little search box that allows you to search through Casemates or Office Depot's tens of thousands of SKUs, and to the extent that you filter and deliver correctly and efficiently to consumers when they're searching for a product, that was another major, major stumbling block as we interviewed our clients and we saw the results. Fast filtering. For example, and every case is different, again, no pun intended, but we're using Casemate because of the volume that they do and the SKUs that they have. The first thing that I want to do as a consumer to narrow from 40,000 SKUs to the SKUs that matter to me are my device type. So the minute we incorporated device type for Casemate, so if I'm on a BlackBerry, I can, using the mobile device, the first filtering option I have is device type, and it's relevant to me, and it narrows it down to the products quickly that are most relevant to me. So think that through. It's back to those questions that I asked before, really thinking about your consumer, your interaction with the consumer, and the tools that are available to you. The filtering and search sophistication in inside search is very, very robust in a mobile platform. It should be. Use it accordingly. Use it to your advantage for those consumers. Lots of different screen grabs of how that looks in the mobile environment and different filtering techniques. And this one's just more Casemate, just sticking to a pretty consistent one. And then your product catalog. Office Depot is a good example because they've got tens of thousands of SKUs. Sears is another example. And I actually meant to ask this to Andy, and maybe he can chime in. But when you have a database of products that is enormous, is there a way to think about narrowing that product catalog to be more appropriate for mobile? And that's what we're finding with some of our clients. To the extent that we can do that and cache those limited product catalogs and make them more available via a content delivery network that delivers the content faster, regardless of your 3G network or whatever network that you're on. Hopefully you're on a decent network. But to the extent that we can deliver the content faster to the mobile phone user, that is going to save defection. There's lots of areas where we can minimize defection. This was the 62%, to my point, 62% of US consumers surveyed allow no more than 15 seconds for a page to load on their mobile device. The majority expect speeds to be good or greater than desktops. There's some sort of like attention deficit that we have when we're on our mobile device. If it doesn't happen immediately, we don't care. We're done, we're moving on because there's 10 other things that we can be doing on our mobile device, and maybe we only have a second because we're sitting at a stoplight at the, we shouldn't be doing this, but we're in the car and we only have a minute to do it before the stoplight changes. So it's that time, that loading. Again, these are things seem kind of obvious, but and are low-hanging fruit. But a lot of retailers, a lot of sellers don't use them. And this is just in terms of putting it in numbers. If a retailer, a lot of our retailers are sort of in advance of, they're doing significant millions on an annual basis, and the mobile channel is becoming a larger percentage of that. This was a 1-second delay in page response can result in a 7% reduction in conversions. And this was a research study done by Kissmetrics. So if you're a $100,000 retailer per day, we're talking Sears and easily does that, that's $2.5 million in lost sales per year. And that can be managed and minimized or completely reduced to nothing. This was the reduced load page times that we had for them. They cached product images via our content delivery network, and allows the pages to load a lot quicker. We have optimized images for mobile and limited catalogs of products and quicker search times. So we have this whole confluence of like 4 or 5 things that seem obvious that have skyrocketed their conversions on mobile and made mobile a much larger percentage of their mix. The fourth one, and there's one more after this one, is the emails. One of the ways that retailers do really well is via email. Most people read email on their mobile even more so than they read on their desktop, because that's one of the major activities. Like the minute you pick up your phone, like my father used to call it empty hands. You have to have something in your hand at all the time. So even if you have no reason to pick your phone up, you're picking your phone up and you're checking your email. And, oh, there's a new email. Oh, cool, it's from Casemate. Oh, they got a new offer. Oh, cool, I'll click on it. I'm not clicking on it because I particularly care about Casemate. I'm clicking on it because I'm bored, because I'm watching TV or I'm doing something, and I cannot leave my phone on my couch or on my desk or somewhere else for more than 5 minutes if I'm not doing anything. It's like a cigarette habit. And so people are reading email on their mobiles more so than ever, or more so than any device. And to the extent that you give a nice, concise, relevant, and browser or mobile device browser-specific email, you're going to increase your likelihood of conversions. They're going to click through and go to that site and poke around on it just because they're bored. And if you can entice them, knock them along the process, boom, you have a transaction. 56% of consumers who have made at least one purchase using their smartphones have done so in response to a marketing message in a mobile email. And I would suspect this is going to get higher. That's from ExactTarget, which is a big email marketing company. And then readability. So you can see this is a very specific email that is very aesthetically pleasing and will likely elicit a good response from a BlackBerry user, and even a new BlackBerry user, or even a rendered version of an old, sort of an old device. So think about the devices. Think about what impact the effect of a quality email versus a crappy email will have. And that's optimized for size. And then this was the final point. And then I have a couple of takeaways, and then I'm done, and then I think we have a few minutes left. This is the keeping your cart persistent. And these are kind of fancy words, buzzwords like sequential screening and some other buzzwords. Oh, and the other buzzwords that I didn't put in here was, it was called couch commerce. Because we're sitting on the couch and we're buying stuff because we're watching TV and we're bored. So those were the new introductory key phrases. So keep your cart persistent across devices. We saw how many times people are starting on their mobile device and moving to other devices. If I drop something in my shopping cart, it would be great if I opened it up on my desktop the next day when I remembered or I had time, and that same item was in my desktop, was in the shopping cart. So that's a big saving grace for a lot of these mobile retailers or retailers in general that want to convert online using mobile. And I don't know why this was compared versus males and females, but apparently females are more impatient in this case. I don't know. I would think that guys would be more impatient. I don't know. But maybe that's because I'm 40. But again, here's a good graphic of the use of that sort of sequential device, the same experience, the constant experience from one device to the next, a reminder of what I've done. Okay, finally, here are the takeaways. These are the evangelistic takeaways. Dream big, believe in yourself and your plan, think big picture. And if any of you guys think these takeaways are meaningless, it's because they are, and these are the real takeaways. Those were the fake takeaways. So now somebody put down their BlackBerry, I saw. They're like, oh, cool, the real takeaways. The real takeaways are, it's 2012 and consumers are impatient. Women more than men, but I'm pretty impatient. And we have high expectations. We don't want to see 1998 versions of e-commerce on any device. We're going to make a judgment against that retailer and probably never visit that retailer again. Mobile commerce is being adopted faster than web commerce ever was. Successful retailers will properly leverage m-commerce, and others will be left behind. Start by selecting a good multi-channel e-commerce platform, and I talked about that in the past. Really expect a lot from that mobile version of your e-commerce. Expect a lot. Don't have it be like an app or a widget or something ineffectual, because you can see what reliance and expectations your consumers place on that. Stay flexible and expect the market to continue to change rapidly, and that was kind of evangelistic, but I had to end with one of those. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's the story. Does anybody have any questions? Is Andy here from Sears? Did he leave? Okay.
Testing, 1, 2. Okay, great. So you showed a couple of stats around the distraction, right? And the distraction environment that we live in. We sent a videographer out on the street just to take video of what people do on their phones, and you see all of the, I'm talking to this person while on my phone. But we've been seeing brands taking advantage of that, particularly in the US, where they sort of say, okay, great, I know that people are more and more watching TV with their phone, with their tablet. They're doing ads that then prompt you to take an action to purchase something, download something, that sort of thing. So what are some of the tactics that folks use to create that kind of integration, particularly when it comes to selling and driving that call to action?
So I will just start by saying that we're a technology provider and we're not the marketer, so we don't tell our customers how to market. So that was sort of the disclaimer that will justify why I don't have a great answer for that. I'm not in the ad agency business, but we've seen a lot of interaction via SMS, via Twitter, via real-time exchanges, via short code, short codes that entice consumers to text something to some short code because they'll be entered into some contest associated with the retailer. These are the types of ads that we're seeing having real-time engagement and driving the consumer to the website to see if they won something, receive something via text message. So again, it's keeping it very mobile-centric because I receive a text message and a short link via text message, and then it drives me back to that retailer's website. So that's one of the examples.
Great, awesome. Great, well, Ryan, a question over here.
Hi. I'm not sure if I may have missed this, but I'm one of those impatient females.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned something about speed being a part of what you all offer in the service. I don't really understand how that works, if the network itself is slow, or how does that work?
Yeah, so certainly the lowest common denominator or the major limitation is going to be your connectivity. So to the extent you're on a slow connection, to the extent there's lots of traffic on the connection, you're at a concert, and there's huge load in that specific triangulating area, it doesn't matter how good you are as a retailer. But what I was talking about was not being the retailer or the seller not being the limiting factor. Doing everything in their power, like for example, Casemate or Office Depot or any of these companies, doing everything in their power that speeds the process, it ensures a speedy process if and when the connection is correct. So that when they are on a fast connection, they are getting the fastest possible delivery, and that's limited catalogs of products, cached products, optimized images, a good content delivery network. And there's probably a few other things. I'm not the developer, but very, certainly a good question.